I do want to share with you guys some of the videos because there's a lot of campaign staffers and there's a lot of top staff members that are doing podcasts, making sure that they get their visibility, and they're having conversations about what went wrong this election season and what was the learned lessons. Okay, so I want to deep dive into that a little bit, and I want to have that conversation with you guys. Uh, this was a whole podcast that they were on. I want to go over to the final parts of the podcast. Actually, I want to skim through because there's some parts that I didn't watch. And then hopefully we can learn something from this and they teach us what they've learned and how they're going to make adjustments instead of having a civil war within the Democratic Party. Make sure y'all hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel. Let's see what
Welcome
they
to-
got to say. Let's go to, because I got timestamps in here. Okay, so let's talk about this. How the money was spent in the Harris campaign. Let's start here.
So don't miss
money very quickly. You made huge investments in linear television. You made largest investment ever in digital. You did a huge field operation. In the post-election analysis, there has been, even from some folks, anonymously at least, inside the campaign, some critique of some of the spending decisions around things like the set for Call Her Daddy, this, renting the Sphere, that sort of stuff. Can you talk a little bit? I'd love to hear you respond to those criticisms, and then maybe give. Just want to get clarity on the point. Is that when you do you think when you guys have done all the books that whether the DNC will be in debt at the end of this race?
So, first of all, I think it was an extraordinary testament to the vice president to have the kind of grassroots support that she had, and built on the foundation of the list and the support that President Biden had and had built and we cultivated over years. We had some unique things that we had to do in this race that I think were really critical to do early and spent a lot of resources at an earlier stage than we would have traditionally.
Is that ads?
But also the field program. I mean, we had massive investment of staff, 3,000 staff, hundreds and hundreds of offices in battleground states. We had canvassers and people out knocking doors.
And that's that's pre-Kamala Harris too, or is it?
Yeah, we 100% started at pre-Kamala Harris, and we've been building for it the entire campaign. But we really had to take it into hyperdrive because we had so much work that we had to do. We knew that we couldn't just reach people with one medium, and we had to make sure we were maximizing it. And we had to really move up spend when we're announcing the vice president as the new nominee. We are, a couple weeks later announcing a running mate. We are, building out who is she standing for, all the things we've been talking about. And so those things cost a lot of resources, especially when you're running 7 states. There was different opportunities for us to look at the battleground map and to say, is anything moving away from us? And we saw up until the very end that there was so much. Every single state was in such a margin of error. There was nothing that told us we couldn't play in one of these states. And we needed to ensure with Pennsylvania, which was our toughest of the blue walls from the beginning, where we were tied, what's the alternative to make up those electoral votes? So
at what point, and this is the question that I have, at what point do y'all think that she was ever tied with Trump? Biden or her? At what point do y'all ever think that they were tied with Trump? In any battleground state? Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Nevada. At what point do y'all think that she was ever tied in Georgia, in any of these battleground states? She was never in the race. She was never in the race. I don't know where their polling data was. I could tell you just from talking to people and being on the ground and traveling to different places that was never a sentiment. That was never a thing. It was only a thing in the Black community. It was never a thing internationally.
we ran a very wide map in other races that some of us have worked on together. We had to, move off of states. That was not actually part of our plan. And then we had to reach very hard to find voters. So we were trying to, yes, spend more resources on digital, not for the sake of that, but because we're trying to find young people. We're trying to find these lower propensity voters that were tuned out to politics. So much of the electorate, pre-Vice President Harris and post, had opted out of political engagement, had opted out of wanting to talk through or hear the kind of partisan environment. So we had to work extremely hard to find them. And
here's the key, though. Are y'all listening to what she's saying? She said they had to work to find voters. And this is the thing that obviously shows you that there's a difference between a conservative and the liberal party. The liberal party has become so liberal and so left-leaning that they've alienated voters to where they basically pushed traditional Democrats over to being or identifying and voting for Republicans. Now, what does that mean? That means that as we get older, we battle within ourselves to try to figure out if it makes sense to still stay in our party. And the thing that we battle against is we battle against our family. We battle against our past voting practices. We battle against our ego because we don't want to admit that we got it wrong previously in previous elections. And so instead of making excuses and then making adjustments, we battle with ourselves. But traditionally, naturally, you become more conservative as you age because you then recognize the error of your ways. People tend to be more liberal if they've been doing it for a long time because they just don't want to change and they don't like the idea that they have to throw away their racism or bias and prejudice, or B, because they're young, dumb, and ignorant. That is typically why people stay liberal. And then you have a third group of people that benefits off of being liberal because the liberals and the Democratic Party is really the party for the rich. It's a party of division. It's a party of separation. There are groups of people like the Roland Martins, the Ricky Smileys, Steve Harveys, that they run their households conservative, and they are conservative with their dollars, the Charlemagne's, but they're loyal to the Democratic Party because it pays them. And so that's why you don't see people become more liberal as they get older. They become more conservative, and they tend to move away from liberal points of view because they've always traditionally believed in conservative values. They're just starting to come to terms with it. When you make more money, as men, we don't even reach our earning potential until our late 50s, early 60s. We want to keep more of our dollars with us instead of giving it to people that don't care anything about us. We start to care about our children and our children's futures, and so we tend to vote based off of what's in the best interest of them, and we don't want people in their bathrooms that's not supposed to be in their bathrooms. We don't want open borders and immigration and for people to then change the traditional values that we work so hard to preserve because we have a vested interest in what happens for this country instead of people just walking over here and saying that we deserve the same rights as you because we here now. You tend to become more conservative as you get older. So when she's talking and she says, well, we needed to find voters, that means that we needed to get people galvanized that are ignorant to what we really believe in this party, and then to lean into that in order to try to get our people elected. So you tend to see people that are zesty, sassy, younger, and ashy participating on the liberal side, and that's why they have to engage and galvanize their voter base to participate in the election, whereas Republicans and conservatives, they tend to educate because they want you to become more informed, and then that's when the situation happened where you realize you're in the matrix. Let me fast forward towards the end where she talk about what they can learn from this outcome, okay?
Right? Trump is a unique candidate, former incumbent president. There's obviously global trends taking place.
Shout out to Ashley Harrison.
But, I think what you guys all want to do, what I want to take from this conversation is like, how do we project forward for the next races? And I think one of the bigger concerns when you look at these numbers for the future of the Democratic Party in national politics is with Latino voters, right? Based on exits, which I know are imprecise, but since 2012, they have moved 29 points to the right. Like, that is unsustainable, and the map becomes impossible. And the Senate, like a durable Senate majority, is impossible if you're losing Latino voters at that number. What did you guys see with Latinos? Because yes, like inflation is an issue here, but we also had a pretty big shift from 16 to 20. So what were you just seeing with Latino voters, and any thoughts you have on how we begin, if you have them yet, on how we begin to move back?
And before she goes into this, I always like to just give a PSA. Our moderators already know this, but I like to get this PSA for people to understand what we do over here at the Millionaire Morning Show. We don't censor people unless you become overly disrespectful, saying something that's out of pocket about a family member or something like that. We welcome people that have differences of opinion, and we welcome you to participate in the chat. And so if you are a liberal, or you just disagree with something that I say, or you disagree with something that somebody else says in the chat, feel free to speak your mind. We're not an echo chamber. You may be right. Chances are you probably wrong. And that's okay. Because again, we don't censor people. We not only trying to kick it with people that agree with us, but we want to have a conversation with people that may disagree with us also. So my moderators are the greatest moderation group on earth. They don't censor people. They don't tell people what they can and can't do. We encourage you to engage, but we do not encourage you to A, spam the chat, B, overly be disrespectful, and then C, be mindful that this is the morning show and we got people that's in church watching this. You know what I'm saying? That's all we ask. Let's continue.
Yeah, I think this is super tough. I think we saw, as you're saying, this isn't just for 24. We saw it in 20 where, we spent so much time and resources. And I thought even in 20 did a really good job from a campaign standpoint to reach Latino voters in particular. And I think we missed the mark then. And in that instance, I think it was economic broadly, right? And that was such a conversation about COVID and then the economy. I think, we really saw in hindsight, we should have been far more on the economy and COVID kind of second. But, look, I think as you look at 24, first of all, as you well know, Latino voters are not a monolith. And in every battleground state, in every state in the country that have a cohort of Latino voters that make up the electorate, they're very different. And I think certainly the national numbers look particularly bad because they incorporate Florida and in Texas. But we also, saw a shift in this trend, as you're saying, that we have a lot of work to do. I think that it's Latino men in particular. I do think, though, the smaller shift right happened in Pennsylvania, and there's a heavy Puerto Rican community there inside of Philly, and I think obviously that was a big part of the close and where we did see some movement to
after the Trump Madison Square Garden rally.
Exactly. So look, at the end of the day, I think a lot of this is really baked into the right track, wrong track, and the economic concerns, and I think that's fundamental. I also don't know that Latino voters are, one, again, not just monolithic, but maybe not an anomaly to other people in their communities, and they're feeling the same concerns that people have. But I think globally, with Latino men in particular, obviously we talked about the work we did with African American men. I mean, I would say African Americans have been on the same trend line since '08 even, where we've seen a decrease in support cycle after cycle, which we were able to hold off this time. So I think there is a lot more work to do to kind of understand this more and think about it. But I don't think it is the work of just a 107-day campaign or even a presidential campaign. And I think that's probably the biggest answer of where do we go from here on all of this. How do we ensure that people in this country see themselves in what we're selling and that we have solutions that make sense to people and that we can understand what they're going through and that they see themselves reflected in those solutions. And, I think there's just a lot of work that, to me, it is never going to be we have to make choices about one type of voter versus another, but everyone has to see, not just our brand as a party, but more importantly, our candidates as people who are providing solutions and really can make connections and that there's a path for that. And I think the vice president, to her credit, was exceptional at this at every turn.
She goes on to talk about it a little bit more. And let me play a little bit more of this next to her black friend.
Coming out of COVID, inflation, et cetera. Trump never stopped. Trump, obviously it's important to him that he portray this very masculine, strong figure.
One thing that people don't understand about men is that when you masculine, you're just masculine. You don't have to portray it. It just oozes out of you. When you mean what you say and you say what you mean, the problem with the Democratic Party, A, is that they trying to sell you something instead of telling you the truth. B, they not authentic. And then C, they spent the majority of their time trying to emasculate. They tried to make it seem like, oh man, they want to take away your rights and all of this stuff. Being masculine has always been in style, and ain't nothing ever gonna change that. I don't care how many gay boyfriends that you get. I don't care how many of your gay friends that you think makes the most sense. Live your life and do whatever it is that you want to do. But I'm just going to tell you, at the end of the day, they could tell you that they want a partnership instead of a relationship. They could tell you that they want decision making. We can have conversations about how much that a man is supposed to pay. You can keep moving in the woman's household. But at the end of the day, when it comes back down to it, you can't go against the nature of man. You can't go against the thing that God has ordained to be good and true. The reality is this: being masculine is always and forever, 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now. I don't care how many BBLs and how many gender changes and how many identifications and pronouns that you do. You will never be able to say that masculinity is out of style. You can label it different and say, oh, it's toxic masculinity. You can put different adjectives on it. Masculinity is always and forever going to be in style. You could sit there and talk to a woman that say that she won't say so. I know for a fact that the overwhelming majority of women want a man to release them from the woes and the ills and the ways and the things that they got to go out here and battle for you for resources on. Most of them would prefer to have the option to work and do not want to have to go to work in order to keep a roof over their head. Most of them would prefer to be able to be at home, chill, get up and rise up when they want to, and don't want to have to be made to get up on that alarm clock unless they're getting their children off to school. Most of them don't want the responsibility, but they want to be nosy. They just don't want the responsibility of what bill is going where. And as long as they got that comfortability, they will give you everything. There is nothing that you can tell me at no point, whether we're talking about relationships, resources, or politics, that you are going to sit here and tell me that masculinity will never, ever, or it's going to lose style, or they have to portray us. No. That's something that you got or you don't. I don't care how many wraps you put over your breasts as a woman and try to pretend to be a man. You not me. You ain't never gonna be me. God ain't give you that gift. It just is what it is. At the end of the day, it is what it is. And masculinity, for the people out there that keep on pandering and keep saying, oh man, we got to tell a woman what she. No, listen, bro, you just got to be you. You just got to win. You focus on you, they focus on you. You focus on you, they focus on you. Why? Because you becoming great, they then become the beneficiary of your greatness. They didn't say that you were the helpmeet to her. She's the helpmeet to you. You are the one that go out and kill everything. Masculinity ain't something that you got to try to get. It's something that you are or you aren't. And so most guys need to step out, drop their balls. It's okay for you to watch football and not always have to watch the HGTV channel with her. You don't have to watch Sex in the City, dog. She gonna admire you for the fact that you want to watch some killing, shoot 'em up, put me on some Rambo and some Godfather Part 2. I'm good. I'm good. Stop thinking and stop leaning into what your mama taught you. That's the lesson that your daddy should have showed you. Your father was supposed to show you what masculinity looked like. We go out, we hunt, we're hunter-gatherers, we kill everything, we destroy everything, we build up the world, we bring in resources, and we let the women parlay around the table and make them seem like what they thinking is important. That's what we do. This Thanksgiving, the women is going to be out there thinking that it matters what we care. We gonna make them think like we care about what they think at the Thanksgiving table. Cool. At the end of the day, we about to go and watch some football, play some poker. We gonna watch some hoes on our phone occasionally. Don't worry about her. She gonna get it. She'll understand. She understands. She know that you looking at the girl that's over there. Your eyes work, don't it? You keep trying to convince her, I don't see anybody else. You a man, ain't you? You a man, ain't you? Now, the discipline that you have to execute on it is a little different. We got to teach you that lesson. Discipline is important, but you a grown man. Stop trying to hide that you a man, dog. You ain't a woman. You a man. All right? Talking about masculinity. Get out of here with that.
And so how does that show up for people? It shows up at UFC fights. It shows up with Dana White speaking at the convention. It shows up with the kind of podcasts that he's doing. It shows up in his rhetoric. And he's constantly picking a fight and showing that he's going to take
And
something.
when I say hoes on the phone, I'm talking about you can like an Instagram post here and there. She know that you looked at the chick on Instagram. That woman ain't never coming close to you. This cool. You can look at her. She keep tripping about, oh my God, why do you be looking at these girls on Instagram? Why do you the same reason why grandpa and granddad used to look at the Playboy posters. They had Playboy, we got Instagram. That's it. You looking at the little hoes on the okay, that's trippy. You ain't never gonna see her before. Who cares? Granddad had Playboy. He was looking at the, you know what I'm saying? All of that. We look at Instagram, we scroll up and down. Oh, okay, cool. But ain't nobody tripping about that. I like you. You know what I'm saying? I like your big head. I like your big head at the end of the day. I looked at her, I'm coming home to you.
On. I'm not saying we mimic that. We don't want to mimic that. But we have to pay attention to why people find that appealing. And his use of TikTok and specifically reaching those younger men, I can't tell you how many friends of mine or nieces and nephews would say to me, do you know I'm getting these things from Trump all the time on TikTok? And they're not political people. They weren't signing up for that stuff, but Trump was reaching them. So there is a lot for us to learn in that. But I will also say a lot of that was very specific to that candidate, you know, in his messaging and why that was, while people were open to that messaging. We can go really deep into why, and we can go into a conversation on people thinking that Democrats are squishy and, you know, are, you know, the conversation we just had about transgender and the conversation that Republicans in the House are trying to make us have on bathrooms right now. And you know, we can talk about how we're going to get people's wages up, how we're going to, you know, create programs for people that don't go to college but still can figure out how to build their careers. How we finally,
get it.
you know, address the sandwich generation, like the vice president was trying to have. Of
I did a video last night that I dropped on the Anton Daniels channel, and it was of Bill Clinton, and he was having a conversation, and he was saying why. If a female ever becomes president of the United States of America, that it was going to be a conservative female. Now, why I agreed with him, that if a female was to ever become president of the United States of America, that ultimately it will probably be a female on the Republican side or on the conservative side. I'm going to just be honest with you. And again, this goes into the men being men. Listen, you could try to reach the sandwich generation, and you can talk to the alphabet community, and you can try to reach the trans people, and you can give tax dollars to give transitions inside of prison all you want. By default, just the nature in me is that I am not the type of person to look for a woman for leadership. You could try to reach me, you could try to teach me, you can have a conversation with me, and you can try to convince me. You could try to say what Kamala Harris said and saying that I'm misogynistic if I don't vote for you. The nature of me is to not look for leadership in you. I don't call my mother to ask her for advice. I call her to ask her what she wants. I don't call my mother to ask her for advice. I call her to ask her what does she want. Me and my brothers confer on what's best for the women in the family. We take y'all concerns into consideration, and then we make decisions on what's best for you. That's just the way that it is. Now, I understand that we got a new generation of people that move a little bit differently, but it is what it is. Your job is to sit there and have some fun and to go shopping. Our job is to make decisions that's best for y'all and the kids. And I know that it's a lot of people that say, "Oh, you old school," or, you so throwback and, that's of a different type of generation of guy, that's cool. I am what I am. I am what I am. I don't look to women for leadership. I'm not asking you for anything. I'm asking you what you want. What are y'all looking for? What y'all need? What y'all got going on? Hey. What she need? Mom's taken care of? Hey, bro, y'all good over there? All right. Because if a guy ever say, listen, he shouldn't even be going to her. He should be making sure that he confer with us so that we can all group together and get it together. We going to take care of this. We going to take care of this. When my father died in 2017, my mama didn't do nothing. She ain't do nothing but hand over everything that she needed to hand over as far as for us to make sure this stuff is taken care of. All right, is the taxes paid? This is what we're going to do. Me and my brothers came to, this is what we're going to do with the cars. The taxes paid? Okay. So let's make sure that she good. What does her accounts look like? All right, so we went to the funeral home. We set everything in place. We made sure that that ain't her business. That is not her business. She not there to do anything. We took care of that. Me and my three brothers, and we all got different personalities and we all in different spaces of life. We got together and we made the decision on what was going to happen going forward. End of discussion. Nothing else to talk about. Hey, y'all the girls over there, y'all sit there, y'all can pick the type of flowers that y'all want. We gonna go over here and handle this business. We'll be back. All discussions was without women. All the discussions, the women were not concerned. They didn't have no say so. We gonna let them know what happened after we have a conversation. We not talking to y'all about what's going to happen. This is what's gonna happen. Mom's gonna be taken care of. This is gonna be taken care of. Blah blah blah, so on and so forth. And I do the same thing with my mother-in-law. Rita come to me. Hey, says, okay, so this is what we're gonna do. Make sure she's straight. Hey, you know what? Call the dealership, get her a new car, because I don't like the fact that the winter is coming up. And I don't like the car that she's driving in. It don't seem like the car that I would want her in because that's my mother-in-law. Get her a new car, get that situation taken care of, end of discussion. I'm not sitting here going back and forth. I'm not asking you for permission. This is what's going to happen. And you're going to be happy about it. So, it's different for us. And like I said, masculinity is always going to be in style, so you're never going to have to project it. You just got to be it. You just got to embrace who you naturally are.